Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the RotoBaller Radio Waiver Wire series for Week 2 of the fantasy football season. I'm your host, Anthony Aniano. Happy to be with you here as we take a look at some quarterbacks and tight ends for the upcoming fantasy football week. Folks, don't forget to win big in 2021 with RotoBaller.com NFL Premium Pass. Are you ready to dominate your season-long and DFS leagues? RotoBaller's NFL Premium Pass and Draft Kit includes rankings, projections, and cheat sheets for all formats. Get exclusive DFS tools, lineup optimizers, and premium Slack chats. Join in on the winning and take 50% off of any NFL Premium Pass. Use my promo code ACES for an additional 10% discount. Visit rotoballer.com/radio, sign up today, and start rotoballing like a boss. All right, everybody. Hopefully you saw the running back show. Hopefully you saw the wide receiver waiver wire show for week 2. Now it's time to talk about a few QBs and some tight ends who are maybe available on your waiver wire for week 2, coming off a strong week 1 performance. And we'll start at the quarterback position. Now, the reality is Ryan Fitzpatrick's the only quarterback who really had an injury at the time of this recording. Okay. In a 2 QB format, he was usable there. You weren't starting him in a 12 QB league. But nonetheless, there are some performances we can't ignore. Now, I'm not going crazy over Tyrod Taylor. Okay, great game. He's a 2 QB quarterback, not anybody I'm forcing in my lineup. Okay, who I do like after this first week, it's time to pay attention to Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is a gunslinger, and gunslingers put up points. And what they did to that Packer defense in New Orleans bodes well for 2021. Alvin Kamara was involved. No Michael Thomas. Drew Brees is retired. And there's Jameis Winston throwing for 5 touchdown passes and moving the ball around all over the field. No interceptions. Get excited by Jameis Winston's performance. 14 of 20, 148 yards, 5 touchdowns, 39.62 fantasy points at Carolina next week, where Zach Wilson in the second half put up a ton of numbers. Corey Davis caught 2 touchdowns for him. If Zach Wilson's doing that, so can Jameis Winston. He is honestly the only quarterback I'm mentioning here today who I'm thinking about not only adding, but getting in my lineup, depending upon who my QB1 is. Jared Goff of the Lions, I have to mention it. I'm not putting anything serious in. 2 QB league, if he's available, we add him. I know a lot of it was garbage time points. Not even garbage time, but second half attempting to come back points, okay, on a lot of checkdowns to DeAndre Swift. Hawkinson was heavily involved. But he threw the ball 57 times, and that type of volume can't be ignored, and he's only 7% rostered. He did throw for 338 yards and 3 touchdowns, 1 interception. It was a 39.92 fantasy point performance on Yahoo. And he goes against Green Bay, who just allowed 5 touchdown passes to the Saints and Jameis Winston. Jared Goff, people forget, did quarterback a Rams team that went to the Super Bowl and put up a ton of points. We'll never forget the Monday night game with Goff and Mahomes, that Chiefs-Rams game where they went back and forth, and one of the all-time great Monday night performances by both teams, 7% rostered. My final quarterback ad, who I'm actually considering as a backup QB, is Carson Wentz. He looked good. He looked better than he did at any point last season for the Philadelphia Eagles. 15% rostered. It wasn't long ago he was an MVP candidate. He's back in Indy with Frank Reich, and he goes 25 of 38, 251, and 2 touchdown passes. Rager was involved, 3 touchdowns. Rager, Devonta Smith, and Dallas Goedert all involved. He faces a Ram defense, a tough Ram defense, does Carson Wentz. But nonetheless, he's a viable backup quarterback at this point in the season, only 15% rostered. If I'm adding, it's Winston. Honestly, it's Wentz, and then it's Jared Goff. Those are my top 3 quarterback ads for week 2. Now, the tight end position, some interesting names. You have Jared Cook of the Chargers, the veteran, the ageless one. But you know what? I can't ignore a tight end who gets 8 targets in a game. And I said this in the wide receiver show. Don't chase touchdowns right now. Don't even chase yards per se. Look at those targets. Targets matter right now. Okay, touchdowns are fun, but targets last forever. And Jared Cook, 8 targets in week 1. Can't be ignored. Okay, 5 touchdowns, 56 yards, 10.6 fantasy points. And the Chargers play a Cowboy team that did allow 2 passing touchdowns and about 33 fantasy points to Gronkowski on Thursday night. If Dallas isn't going to be able to cover the tight end, Jared Cook could be in a line for another 8 or 9 target game in week 2. James O'Shaughnessy, okay, probably mispronounced it, but then again, I'm not Irish. 0% rostered. He's your freebie out of Jacksonville. Listen, Jaguars didn't even want to try to run the ball. James Robinson, Carlos Hyde, barely involved on the ground. They went out there to throw the ball. Trevor Lawrence had 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. What you'd expect out of a rookie, okay? But the tight end O'Shaughnessy was involved. Another 8-target tight end. 6 receptions, 48 yards. It's another 10-point game. Faces Denver next week. Okay, it's very simple. If you didn't draft any of the big-name tight ends, Kelsey, Kittle, Andrews, Waller, Pitts, okay, even Hawkinson, then you're looking for a 10-point game out of your tight end. That's the realistic fact of the matter, is if you get 10 out of anybody after that, you're happy about it. Okay, Jared Cook gave you 10.6. O'Shaughnessy gave you 10.8. Okay, and 8 targets apiece. Cook 26% rostered. O'Shaughnessy 0% rostered on Yahoo. He's a freebie potentially at the tight end position. Okay, the other tight ends I want to mention here today are the pairing in New Orleans. Juwan Johnson and Adam Troutman. Now, Troutman I've been all over all summer. He's 11% rostered. Juwan Johnson is 10% rostered. And to be honest, Juwan Johnson is going to be the guy who's added more than Troutman. But that's because people are looking at the touchdowns early and not the early targets on that Saints roster. Juwan Johnson, 2 touchdowns. So that's a 17-point game. Get excited over it, right? If you use them in DFS, you're winning. However, Juwan Johnson, 3 receptions, 3 targets, 21 yards. You pull those touchdowns out, it's a 5-point game. We're not even talking about him because 3 targets is not enough targets to excite me to add him on my roster. However, Adam Troutman, 3 catches, 18 yards, 4.8 fantasy points. Nothing exciting there. However, I see 6 targets. He was the number 1 target for the game for Jameis Winston. Johnson got the red zone looks. That's 50-50 if that continues. But Troutman with those 6 targets over the course of the game, I find just as valuable. I'm not saying put in a bid for Juwan Johnson. Go ahead and put in that bid. But also put in a bid for Troutman. Because somebody's going to overbid for Juwan Johnson. Let them have him on that overbid. And you're getting more targets and potentially more upside rest of the way with Troutman. If I look at these tight ends short term next week, Jared Cook has the potential to be a plug and play next week with that Dallas matchup. After him, take a look at O'Shaughnessy, then Troutman, and then Juwan Johnson. I'm not chasing week 1's touchdowns for week 2. All right, everybody. Make sure you give me a follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. Make sure you head over to RotoBaller.com and sign up for that premium package. 50% off RotoBaller.com/radio, any premium pass, and then an additional 10% with the promotional code ACES. All right, make sure you check out right here on YouTube or wherever you listen to the RotoBaller Radio podcast, to the running back waiver wire and the wide receiver waiver wire show, and a little bit later in the week, Scott Engel and I with the sleeper and value plays for week 2. It's been fun, everybody. We'll see you next time. Stay smart, stay safe. Have a good one, folks.